I should be relieved. Relieved that there's no evidence of us starting that fire. Relieved that we're not crazy. That there wasn't some conspiracy. But I'm not. He was a sweet kid. With a shitty father who hid out here like a coward after dumping him in a hole.
I think that Ned loved him.
I don't want to hear it.
He obviously didn't want to forget him. He just didn't know what to do.
Henry, not knowing what to do isn't okay. When you're supposed to look after someone,
You figure it out.
Yes. And Ned Goodwin is a shithead who is incapable of figuring anything out. Sorry. God, it would have been so easy to tell the truth and have him sent home. I can't stop thinking about it.
You didn't do anything wrong. You said it yourself. It was Ned's job to look after him.
Yes, I did. And now I've got to decide whether I tell people that he's down there so they can retrieve the body or not. And if I do, I'm going to be asked about Ned Goodwin.
Dee?
Oh, fuck.
Is that a helicopter?
Yeah, hold on. Hey. No, there's one more. Yes, here, yeah. Yeah, he's coming. Okay, 1 second. Hey, they're here, but they're making rounds. They'll come back. I think I'm gonna go with them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah?
I mean, it's dangerous here, and if anything were to happen, then that would be on me, so.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you sure that's okay?
I said it was.
Alright, I should go.
Have a safe flight.
Alright, have a safe hike.
Alright, after a long walk, going back through the cave, back up to Beartooth Point and beyond, we finally reached the north side of the area. Supply drops right over there, and cable car should be up here. Delilah has already left on a helicopter, so we gotta go catch a ride. And don't worry, it's not like this isn't gonna break halfway over and then we're gonna die, nothing like that.
Hey, I'm at the evac spot near the ravine. Delilah, are you there? Delilah?
Hey everybody, so a bit of bad news about the ending. Of course, we ran into the worst possible situation. We rode the cable car over to Delilah's place, and then the game promptly froze, and my save won't load at all. So I don't think I can play through the ending, which is just great at the very end, of course. Now, luckily, you didn't miss too much, and I can describe to you what happens, because it's not that much. Basically, after you go across the cable car, you end up at Thoroughfare Lookout, which is actually this place that we're looking. The title screen shows Delilah's tower. So you come here, everything's yellow and dusty and whatever, nobody's there. And you finally get to go up into the tower and look around at her stuff, which would have been cool to do. Unfortunately, we can't do it. But basically, her tower looks very much like ours did inside. But there's a couple things you can find. There's, do you remember when we went down and saw Pork Pond and there was that stake in the ground with nothing on it? And she's like, oh yeah, people are always stealing the sign. Well, she stole the sign. It's hanging up in her tower. There were some drawings of us that she did, depending on how we described ourselves. It looks a little different. And there's some other stuff with that. Probably books of, crosswords and maybe a bottle of tequila. I don't know. Oh yeah, her radio setup is there, and you can get on it and talk to her a little bit, but not too much comes of that. She basically is just like, you know what, this summer was too much for me, and I don't think I can come back again. And you can maybe be like, hey, we should meet up later or not. And that's basically it. After that, a helicopter comes, lands near the tower, and you can go get in it and leave, and that's the end. And then it plays the credits, and one cool thing that we are missing is during the credits it shows all of the photos that you took with the little camera. So every picture that we took, and then that the one that happened when we pulled the camera out of the backpack, so you get to see Hank's face. And then before that, I think there's a picture of Brian, and then there's a picture of Brian and Ned at Two Forks. So. Yeah, I guess that's basically it. Thank you very much for watching. If you watched the whole thing, and if this was your first time, then let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought about the game as a whole or the story. If you have any thoughts or questions, that would be great to hear. Besides, why can't we see the ending? Which is a question that I also have. But yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, check out my other series or come back next week and we'll play something else that's fun. Now, before I let you go, or if you want to stick around for a little bit and indulge me, I want to talk a little more about this game. Just a couple of things. So first of all, as I mentioned when we started, this is one of my favorite games, especially when it comes to the story. Obviously the atmosphere gets me, the music and the sounds and everything, the lighting and whatnot. It's just it gives me a really cool feeling, and it's not anything that I can compare to other games. Story-wise, I like that the game overall is not too long, and it's basically like, this guy had troubles at home, and he went out and got a job, and then you're just going to be, walking around taking care of the forest, and then, a bunch of weird stuff starts happening, and you don't find out till the end that most of it was Ned. I think that's a cool reveal, and especially seeing everything that he's been doing behind the scenes at the end is really cool. There are a couple of cool things that I was hoping we'd see on this playthrough, but I missed, and that's just because I haven't played it in a long time, and I didn't remember where to find them. But the things that I was looking out for was one of them was that elk tracker that you find near the end of the game, and that's something that I missed, and that kind of clues you into that research station was just really tracking animals in the area, and they weren't tracking us at all. So that kind of clues you into that, but we missed that, unfortunately. Close to that spot, there's like some folding chairs set up with a tape, and if you play it, it's I think it's, I don't remember if it's Dave or Ron. It's one of those guys. It might be Ron. And he's like, hey, I saw that song that you were writing, and I thought I'd play it for you. And he sings the old Shoshone song, which is cool. I do like that song. We didn't really wrap up that storyline between Ron and Dave and all the letters and stuff, but I think it basically ends, and I don't know if this is explicitly stated or not, but it's hinted at least that Dave is, I don't know if you'd say in love with Ron, but he definitely has feelings for him, and Ron's just kind of oblivious. He's like, oh yeah, man, let's go get some babes and stuff like that. So that's kind of where it leaves off, and then one of them, I think Ron sings Dave's song, so that's kind of the end of that story. The other things that we missed, somewhere closer to the beginning or the middle, you can find a little tortoise, which I really wanted to grab. He's like cute, and you can name him. But I looked around a little bit for him, and I could not find him, so I don't remember where he is. And then the last thing that I remembered was there's a conversation you can have with Delilah that we didn't get, where she talks about why she came out here. And she basically says that she had a boyfriend named Javier, I think, and I think he was mentioned briefly in our game. But she was dating him, and then I think his brother dies, and she basically ghosts out on him. Like, she just disappears. And then like a couple months later, they finally come back together, and he just dumps her. Which, you know, it's like, my brother died, and you weren't there for me. You left me alone to deal with that. And Delilah's, you know, heartbroken, and she basically takes this job to escape. You know, lies about what happened to her family and stuff like that. And she's like, I'm going to come out here and work, and she's been here ever since. So that's a conversation that we didn't get. But that, I think, is an important thing to know, because I wanted to talk a little bit more about the ending of this game and what happened. Because, you know, obviously I like this game a lot, and a lot of people like it, but also when it came out, there was a lot of criticism about it. You know, a lot of the normal things about games of this type, where you just walk around and talk, you know, everyone being like, oh, it's boring, it's too short, you just walk, you don't do anything. Like, that's all normal. But a lot of people said that they didn't like the ending of this game. You know, I've read a lot of people say that they were disappointed that there is no way to have Delilah stay, no way to meet her at the tower, and things like that. Which I get that line of thinking, you know, thinking that maybe depending on what you said on the radio or how you treated her or what, that maybe she would decide to stick around, or like she and Henry could start a relationship or something like that. I get that line of thinking, but the game ending how it doesn't bother me, because it makes sense how it goes down. You know, Henry and Delilah have been talking to each other for two and a half months. And, you know, they went through this really weird situation together. But other than that, they've never met in person. You know, they have only talked to each other on the radio. One thing that I think is interesting is comparing Henry's relationship with Delilah to his relationship with his wife. You know, as far as the game goes, like 90% of the game, 95% of the game we spend with Delilah and only her. And so I understand why people get attached to her, and, you know, she gets flirty in the middle of the game, and they're like, oh, you know, maybe Henry should be with Delilah. They seem close, and they seem to be good friends and that sort of thing. But you have to put that next to the beginning of the game, which is just text, but it describes all of Henry and Julia's relationship, and they've known each other for years. You know, they've been through way more than just these 2 months, and they've been married, and it's just interesting how playing through the game, you feel a lot closer to Delilah because she's the only one you interact with, really. But from Henry's point of view, you know, this is just a woman that he's talked to on a radio for 2 months, and it's not his wife, who he's known for much longer. The other part of the ending that makes sense to me is Delilah leaving. A lot of people were disappointed with that because they, like I said, they thought that there should be an option for her to stay. But especially when you look back at when she tells you the story about her ex-boyfriend and kind of everything else that she does during this game, you know, she has a tendency to run away from her problems. You know, when her ex-boyfriend's brother died, she couldn't deal with it, and she basically ran away from her life. And now we have all of this traumatic stuff happening over the summer, and instead of opting to stick around with Henry and, you know, talk about it and figure it out, she just basically says on the radio that she can't deal with it, and, you know, she might get in touch with them later, but maybe not. You know, looking back at Delilah throughout the game, like, yeah, you like her, she's the only person you talk to, and she's funny, and they seem to get along, but, like, she's not super great at her job. Like, she's not so responsible. She neglects a lot of her duties, and when things go wrong, she tends to hide the truth from people who should know about it. She didn't give people the whole story on what happened with the teens at the lake. She didn't tell anybody about Brian. There's one thing that we missed, and I don't even know how to get it, but the whole thing with Wapiti Station down there in the meadow, and she's like, oh, why is there a fence there? I didn't know, any camp was down there. What's going on? She gets all freaked out. There's some line you can get towards the end of the game, I think, where she's like, oh, I was looking through my tower and I found a report. Somebody sent me a letter saying they were going to set that camp up. She should have known about that the entire time. But she didn't pay attention and then got all paranoid about it. And that's kind of what led to us going down there, and then the camp being lit on fire and everything like that. So, she's not she's not on top of everything. And it's kind of interesting because usually when you have a game like this where someone is guiding you through everything you need to do, you expect them to either know what's going on, or worst case scenario, they're like a bad guy and they're lying to you the whole time. But in this case, it's neither. It's just someone who is not on top of their job, kind of like an unreliable narrator, except they're the only person who's giving you vital information. But anyway, no shade to Delilah. I love Delilah. But I do think the ending makes sense, and that all of this would be too much for her, and it makes sense for her to just bail. And really, that's kind of what the whole game is about. It's about 3 people who are trying to run away from their lives. And for most of the game, you only know about 2 of them. Henry's wife is going through a lot, and he couldn't deal with it, and he didn't know what to do, and he came out here to get away from it. Delilah had her thing with her boyfriend she ran away from to get out here. And then Ned, who we don't know was out here till the very end, but he was out here, his son died in an accident, and he could not deal with it. And he couldn't go back to real life and deal with the consequences, so he just ran away. And, in his own way, he was watching over the body of his son, but he didn't actually take responsibility for what happened. And so I think that story is very interesting. Ned always runs away. Delilah always runs away at the end. And then it doesn't really say what Henry does after this, but it's kind of up to you to decide. Does he go back to Julia after all this? Or does he keep running away? Well, we don't know. But I guess that's up to you to decide what you think he would do. Anyway, I think that's all that I wanted to say. If you stuck around for all that, thank you very much. Let me know if you have any thoughts. Again, I'm sorry that we couldn't watch the ending. That was very disappointing for me as well, but I hope that you enjoyed the rest of the game. I always like playing through it. I wish we had found all those things that I was looking for, but, it's a big park, so I didn't know where everything was. That's it for today. I'll see you guys next time.
I'm headed off to old Shoshone, where the birds and the bees won't know me. Men and war won't exist no more, and there ain't no gals to keep no scorn. I'm headed off to old Shoshone, where the elk and the owls won't know me, where there ain't no judges to whom I gotta plead, 'cause I can be me in old Shoshone.